against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin. We're your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, card breaking news, culture, manic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, the number one watched daily Bitcoin only live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Breaking news, Bitcoin privacy developers, specifically the developers of the Samurai wallet, have been arrested and charged with money laundering. There's been a tremendous amount of infighting within the Bitcoin community, really like a year, maybe even more than that. Specific Bitcoin, I'm not going to name any names, but specific Bitcoin companies are attacked because of certain business decisions that they make. Where in reality, what is happening is that this is the separation of money and state after all. We have to understand what we're up against, the behemoth that we're up against. And this is something that we've been covering for over a year now. When they charged the developer of Tornado Cash with a very similar crime, and they used the straw man argument of North Korea, and they're using Tornado Cash, developers were using people were using Tornado Cash as a way to circumvent the US sanctions and money laundering laws and all that stuff. We made the case that set the precedent. And that was the first time in US history that an open source software was sanctioned. We theorized back then that this was eventually going to be used against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an open source software at the end of the day. Well, fast forward a year later, the same day that Biden announced this crazy capital gains tax and also an unrealized gains tax. There's no conspiracies, but there's also no coincidences. The same day that the developers of the Samurai wallet were arrested in Portugal. This is the separation of money and state. This is no joking matter. And the question that I have for you guys is, what type of future do you want your children to live in? Do you want your children to live in a future of slavery? Or do you want your children to live in a future of freedom? Because that is essentially what's at stake. Make no mistake, they're not going to stop at Samurai. They're not going to stop at privacy tools. The next step is self-custody. They're going to go after it. So what can you do as an individual? Get involved, make your voice heard. The internet has empowered you. It's given you leverage. It's given you the ability to speak up and say something, comment when you see these types of tyrannical moves by the state. And keep in mind, the DOJ press conference is, the press release, it says that, it says these very, very strong words and these convincing words. But you have to keep in mind that the vast majority of people that were using the Samurai services for privacy, 95% were innocent people. Very similar to what happened with Tornado Cash. But it's just interesting how they didn't go straight for the jugular first. They kind of did this slow creep, so to speak. They started with this Tornado Cash. No one was really using it. It was on an altcoin. And then they eventually migrated to Bitcoin, which is something that we predicted was going to happen because it's obvious once you understand the incentives, once you understand the game theory, and once you understand what is happening, what moment in history we're living through. This is the disintermediation of information and the disintermediation of money. And the powers that be that benefited from controlling information and controlling money are going to do everything in their power. They're going to move it up right as close to the line as possible in order to stop those things, even though they can't stop it, but they can definitely make the lives of people trying to reach or trying to attain some type of sovereignty very difficult. And unlike, the French Revolution, unlike the separation of church and state, I don't think this is going to be as bloody. But at the end of the day, it is a revolution. This is the separation of money and state. And there are going to be casualties in this fight, right? And, the Tornado Cash developers, a lot of people have criticized them for doing certain things, and you can criticize their actions. You can criticize their flaws as human beings. But really kind of internalize and ask yourself, what side are you on? And ask yourself another question is, are the people that are charging these developers not guilty of the same crime that they're charging these developers with? Because in reality, what they were doing is they were trying to send a message and say, you are in a different class than I am. We can do those things, but you cannot. If you're an approved bank, we'll slap you with a fine. If you're an open source developer on a protocol of which we can't control, money we can't control, you go to prison for 20 years. Remember Ross. Remember Julian Assange. This is what's happening. So instead of infighting, get involved. We're stronger together than we are separate. And just because there are months that nothing happens and, things are all quiet on the Western Front, so to speak, that doesn't mean that there aren't things happening in the background. And we try to keep you guys informed with what's going on in the political sphere and the regulatory sphere. But make no mistake, the current administration is extremely hostile towards Bitcoin. There's currently a bill in the Senate in the United States that would be a de facto ban, not my words, Pierre Richard's words, a de facto ban on the Bitcoin mining industry in the United States. And it would also be an attack on self-custody. As governments get more and more desperate, as they get more pushed into a corner, as more people choose to opt out and use alternative money, what do you think is going to happen? These types of things happen. So I hope this serves as a wake-up call to a lot of people in the sense of really paying attention to what's actually important. If one of your Bitcoin companies is promoting something on Bitcoin that you don't like or don't agree with, you have to understand that there's like a caged tiger that metaphorically wants to kill you. And you're paying attention to someone on your side that you disagree with. And it's okay to disagree. It's good to disagree. But at the same time, like these purity tests, man, because that's essentially what they are. They're purity tests. I think they're really a distraction to the task at hand. And the task is, we want to separate money from state, and we really believe that society will be a much better place for it. And one of the most powerful bureaucracies on the face of the planet, they employ 11 million people, vehemently dislikes this thing. Bitcoin goes right to the source of their power, which is the ability to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. So I hope this serves as a wake-up call to everyone watching and everyone that listens to this on who our real opponent is. And again, this is a peaceful revolution. Make your voices heard. This is the awesome part about living in the US, in the sense that we have the First Amendment. We have the ability to speak up and make our voices heard. We have the right to do so. So make your voices heard, because what happened yesterday was an absolute disgrace. But if you guys have been tuning into Simply Bitcoin, it should not come as a surprise to you whatsoever. Anyways, it's going to be a great show. I do want to have my legendary co-host, who is always optimistic. I don't know if he's optimistic today. He might be Nihilist Fields today. But how are you doing,
I'm still
Opti?
optimistic, man. This just proves that we're winning super hard, and they got to shut us down. Like,
100%.
how could you not be more optimistic? But on that note, Free Samurai, this is absolutely horrible and straight up fucked. And I know we're in YouTube, we try not to cuss and all that stuff, but it really does feel. And we were talking with our guests before the show. It really feels like one of those before and after moments. And this is huge. This is absolutely huge for not only the Samurai crew, but also for Bitcoin in general and privacy at large. So I don't think we should take this lightly. And this is a very important fight moving forward. And I mean, like we said, we saw this one coming for a while. So I think this may have happened a little faster than we thought it would, but hey, we knew that this was eventually going to happen. So on that note, hashtag Free Samurai. Let's bring in our guests. So we got Eric and Andy from Bitcoiner Talent Co. So good to have you guys. A crazy morning, crazy day, but hey, how you guys doing? What's up with you guys?
Otherwise doing well. Yeah, I know we were chatting a bit before the show. It's you said it perfectly. I mean, very much a before and after seminal type moment, right? We saw Tornado Cash, we saw other things happen, but this one just feels, I don't know why, but it feels a little closer to home, right? It's hard not to think of anything else at this point, right?
And for me, I'm in Pennsylvania right now. This is my hometown. And knowing that Keon, one of the founders of Samurai Wallet, is in custody in Pennsylvania, kind of makes me angry, to be honest. And I'm going to do what I can with my contacts to make sure that he gets out all right, because he is a freedom fighter, in my opinion, and I will fight for freedom until the day I die.
100%. 100%. I think people have to be just aware and conscious of what's going on. Number go up, feels good, you get wealthier, but we're here. Simply Bitcoin is here for the revolution. We want the separation of money and state. Of course, it's an NGU technology. Number goes up in the process. That creates the incentive to bring more people in, to highlight the fact, the scam that is fiat money. But this is what it's all about. And remember, the way that you partake in the separation of money and state really doesn't take a lot of effort. All you got to do is you buy Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, and take that Bitcoin into self-custody. That's all you got to do. Like if enough people do that, we win by default. And there's absolutely nothing they could do about it. This is their kind of last throws, to try to implement the existing system on top of the Bitcoin system. Anyways, before we jump into the show, I do want to give a very special shout out to the Bitcoin company that powers this show. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that is self-custody by default, future-proof your money. They recently expanded to all 50 US states. Go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, sign up and support self-custody Bitcoin platforms. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you take self-custody. They don't allow you just to leave your Bitcoin on the platform, right? And self-custody, after all, the revolution. Check out their brand new site. Go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. Buy real Bitcoin. All you got to do is you put in your email address here. You get started. You go through the process. You sign up, and it allows you to start stacking sats incredibly quickly. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And the reason that it's the safest, again, it's self-custody by default. When you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as you purchase it and your transaction clears and through your bank, it withdraws directly to your wallet. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have a lot to talk about. Let's check it out.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, everybody, scan the QR code right now. It'll take you directly to Stamp Seed website where you can get yourself a Stamp Seed seed phrase storage kit. Stamp your seed on titanium, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their website. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 65,250. Sats per dollar 1,533. Market cap 1.28 trillion. Decline from all-time high 11.5%. Block height 840,670. Halving estimate March 16, 2028. Realized monetary inflation 1.72%. Forward monetary inflation 0.85%. You guys want to know why governments dislike Bitcoin tremendously? There's the reason. It exposes the scam that is fiat money. Annual mining revenue 14.2 billion. Current Bitcoin supply 19,689,377.37 Bitcoin. Bitcoin price in gold 27.6 ounces, and the Bitcoin versus gold market cap 7.9%. We're just getting started. Anyways, before we go into kind of like I don't want to say gloomy, but before we get into the samurai news, I do want to play this video so we can all kind of react to it. This was American HODL at the cheat code event that Peter McCormack held in Bedford, I believe. And he had this epic ass speech. It's about 2 minutes and 39 minutes. 2 minutes and 39 seconds. We'll play it and then we'll talk about it. Let's check it out.
That's the sort of conviction that I have about this thing, is that it really is all or nothing. I am all in on Bitcoin. I'm 100% in, net worth invested. I don't have another way out. I don't have a backup plan, you know? And the more conviction I find and the more I go in, you know, seemingly the better my life gets, right? The systems that we find ourselves ensnared in today, this invisible slave system, whose only justification for existence is to steal our time. I think we know that, right? Like that all of our politicians are basically stealing everything that isn't nailed down. Doesn't matter if you're in the UK or in America. It's happening everywhere. It's a global phenomenon. It's a global phenomenon because of fiat currency, by the way. But it only ends when we have the ability to fight back, and Bitcoin has given us that ability. Basically, they encroach and we relent. So they encroach further and we relent further. And we keep giving up our freedoms. For what? What are we getting for it? And meanwhile, most of us are hand-waving it away, saying it's not happening. And we're concerning ourselves with what's going on in the drama at our local pub, or what's happening with the princess, or the game, or whatever. It doesn't matter. You know, the only thing that matters is that we protect ourselves from the people that are every day, all day long, trying to steal from us. The line must be drawn here in Bedford. This is where we draw it, right here. No more encroachments, no more bullshit, no more self-justification, no more kicking the can down the road. Bitcoin gives us the ability to say no to insults on our sovereignty, on our dignity. It makes us owners in our society again, not just renters on government land who are doing what they're told because they're forced to and they're scared. And if you wandered into this room today and this is your first encounter with Bitcoin, today, during the panels and the speeches, you're going to hear about this cheat code. You're going to hear about the most important thing that's happening in your world, in the world, but also in your world, and what's most important to you. So you have two choices once you hear this. You can either take the blue pill, you bury your head in the sand, you wake up in your bed and you believe whatever you want to believe, right? Or you take the orange pill and you see how far the rabbit hole goes. My call to you is that I dare you to make the bold choice, to seek a meaningful and substantial life, to resist nihilism, to believe that your life can be more, to pass something on to the next generation, to pass something of great importance forward in the blockchain of humanity. I dare you to play your role in the greatest story of our lifetimes, the monetization of Bitcoin. Thank you.
So I think American HODL hit it perfectly, right? Are you going to take the blue pill or are you going to take the orange pill? Where do you want to stand? Because in the current world, we're living in a world of theft. The money you use is stealing from you. Now they're insulting us with this capital gain stuff, unrealized gains, right? So you're taking all the risk and the government is saying, hey, wait a second. We want 44% of that. In Canada, it's 67%. And you have to deal with inflation. Oh, and if they decide they want to go to war with someone, they can draft you. So Bitcoin is a protest but not the protests where you go and picket signs and then the cops go out with batons and they beat the living shit out of you. It's a protest where the balance of power is in your favor if you take self-custody. And if you do geographically separate in multi-sig and you separate those seeds via different jurisdictions, oh boy. You know, this is what it's about, right? Do you want to live a future of optimism, of freedom, of prosperity, or do you want to live a future of nihilism, slavery, war, death? Because that is a future on a fiat standard, right? So it's not only our responsibility to spread this message to the people around us. It's not red versus blue. It's not left versus right. It's green versus orange. But it's our responsibility to really spread this technology that has the opportunity to free mankind from the tyranny of the state. And before Bitcoin, I think a lot of people were kind of bamboozled in a way in terms of thinking that, you know, if they go to the poll, you know, they have a say in this, in this Leviathan and which direction this Leviathan goes in. Well, it is an election year, and what I got to say is that the most important vote that you can make this year is by voting with your wallet and opting out of that system entirely. And if enough of us do it, I can't emphasize that enough, we will win. We will win, and there is no response, right, that they can do. They can't do anything, right? So American Hodl put it beautifully. I'm telling you guys, it's days like today that we get a wake-up call and we really kind of realize what's at stake. But most importantly, what those actions being taken by the DOJ, by the state, tell me is that we're winning and they're scared. We're winning and they're scared. Keep going, keep putting the pressure, color within the lines, take self-custody, spread the message of Bitcoin, and this is how we win. We take over the culture, we win the game, we win the ball game. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Opti and then our guests.
Yeah, man. Well, first and foremost, I absolutely love American Hodl. He's a good dude. I love when he does his like ooh-rah moment and he does these speeches. He was, I think, pivotal for a lot of us in the 2018 bear market. He was like our big brother telling us to keep stacking. So I totally agree with what he was saying in this clip. And this is something I usually say on the show all the time. It's like once you finally wake up to the scam that is the fiat system and you go fully into Bitcoin, there's no, in my opinion, no conceivable chance that you're ever going back to the fiat system. Once you understand that it's all designed to work against you as the average everyday person, you realize, oh man, like there's literally only one option. You know, there is no alternative. It is Bitcoin. And this is why we do what we do. Yes, you know, we talk about it all the time and we joke about it and we troll about it. Like, yes, number go up is great. And yes, number go up brings people into Bitcoin. But with number go up, also comes freedom go up. And that's what all of us are here. And Nico's had these conversations with people on IRL as well, where people are like, oh, you know, you guys are just here for the money. And, you know, even that Dave Portnoy on the halving stream with Bitcoin Mag, he's like, I don't really believe that Bitcoiners are here just for freedom and altruistic reasons. You're all here just to get rich. And it's like, yeah, you know, everyone here came for the money, but once you realize that the money is broken, you come to fix the money, you stay to fix the money, you stay to actually change things moving forward. And especially us, you know, we're millennials and people under us, the Zoomers, and there are some cool Gen Xers and boomers out there that also see the problem in the writing on the wall. But all of us millennials and Zoomers, all of us young people out here, once you wake up to the scam that is the fiat system, you realize there's literally nothing else we can do but become Bitcoiners, but try to change the system by creating a better system and doing what we can to ensure that there is as much freedom on planet Earth as possible moving forward. So, you know, on days like today, is when you really refocus why you do this, what you're about. You know, all the skirmishes, all the infighting, it all feels meaningless right now because we are really here for freedom. We're here to not only free humanity, but free ourselves. And that's why we do this. That's why Bitcoin's incentives are so pure. This is why we love Bitcoin. This is why we basically have committed our whole lives to spreading Bitcoin, talking about Bitcoin, talking about the egregious behaviors from the state, and hopefully doing that, being able to get more people into the freedom movement, getting more people stacking sats, taking Bitcoin into custody, and leaving a better world. That's what, you know, I grew up with the idea that like you want to leave a better world than what you encountered when you became an adult. And I think that's what most Bitcoiners are here for. Yes, you know, lines get blurry here and there, but it is about freedom, guys. This is freedom money. This is freedom tech. The powers that be want you to be basically their debt slave. And we all now collectively, I hate using the C word, but told them to go fuck themselves. And this is why we do what we do. So I think today is going to be a good day where everyone kind of refocuses their lens and remembers why we're here. Like, remember the Cypherpunk Manifesto. I highly recommend everyone go reads it again today. You know, these are the important defining moments in this peaceful Bitcoin movement that we're a part of. And like, we're winning so hard. And it really reminds me that there's no going back. There is no way we're ever going back to the fiat system. We only interact with the fiat system as much as we need to survive. And man, this is why we Bitcoin. Like, shouts out to HODL. Can't wait to see him in person again. He's the GOAT. I love HODL.
Yeah, man, that opening monologue is he absolutely crushed it for the cheat code. What a speech. Anyways, there's 879 of you guys watching live right now on YouTube and X. So make sure to smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the show. We just migrated the channel on Rumble from the Simply Bitcoin with no space to the Simply Bitcoin. We also got our Rumble verified, so shout out to the Rumble team for doing that. So we'll be streaming from the Simply Space Bitcoin Rumble channel moving forward. So guys, again, if you guys are enjoying the show, really helps with the algos if you guys smash that like button. Help us break 100 likes within the first 30 minutes of the show on YouTube. Anyways, I do want to pass it on to our guest. Eric, what are your thoughts on this, my friend?
Man, we're at a weird time in history right now. Going back to the American Revolution and being where I'm located physically, thinking about, you know, Philadelphia, defending ourselves against the Brits. This seems kind of like American Revolution in modern day. So for right now, for me, I'm really focused on building out the Bitcoin community. And with that comes, you know, getting people within Bitcoin jobs, but also, you know, building a team. How do we band together? Let's not infight. Let's band together and make sure that our rights are secured. And I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in, hold on one second. I believe in the Constitution. I have a pocket Constitution in my wallet. Okay. And I believe in everything that our ancestors really did to lead up to this point. So to the point that I'm going to keep fighting this fight, I'm here and I'm going to keep fighting this. So I guess it's not really a call to arms, but a call to custody. Make sure you're custodying your Bitcoin and making sure your wealth is protected right now, because if you're saving in dollars right now, you're going to be debased 10, 20% per year at least, plus these capital gains tax that are very unreasonable. Yes, I'll leave it at that, but I'm very pro-American, pro-freedom, and we have to defend these rights right now.
Love it. Call to custody. That's a great meme. I absolutely love that.
100%. Andy, what's your take on all this?
Yeah, I mean, goodness, we could talk unendingly about it, but I do want to address like the HODL quote. I mean, makes a great point. Dude always makes a great point, right? Let's be honest. But this notion of incremental relenting, right? I think that's actually a really good way of putting it, something for all of us to recognize, because I mean, this isn't like a Bitcoin issue. This is for everyone, right? And obviously for us in the community, this news about Samurai, it's like, tidal wave, right? But, you know, we need to recognize that there's a pretty non-insignificant percentage of the population here in the States and globally for that matter that truly does not care about privacy. We all know it, right? It's the, well, I'm not doing anything illegal, so I have nothing to hide crowd. But what I think people don't understand, at least that audience doesn't understand, is just that slippery slope of incremental relenting, right? Removing basic freedoms. Like, listen, we've already pretty much given up the freedom to navigate the internet privately, to not have your credit card purchases be tracked, right? And overall life has kind of continued without pain, even with that relenting, right? But very quickly that point will be passed where you do start to feel pain, right? I mean, imagine, losing the freedom of being able to travel where you want or purchase the goods you want altogether, right? And so in this particular case, privacy is absolutely under attack. Like Bitcoin is the attack vector, coin joining within Bitcoin is the attack vector, right? But largely it's just continuing to remove as many freedoms as possible. And so I think, obviously in the Bitcoin community understand that more immediately. But part of our call to arms, call to action, call to custody, I think it's again shouting outside of Bitcoin, outside of crypto altogether, right? This is something that everyone should be upset about. Everyone should be thinking about the precedent, the dangerous precedent this can set for not just our community, but for everyone, right? And so, I mean, how do you speak to the whole country, right? When there's so many other things that we disagree on. I hope other people have better ideas than myself, but I think it's an important point to make that this is not just a Bitcoin issue, right? That Bitcoin we're feeling it very intimately because it's focused on Bitcoin today, but this will largely affect everyone over time with that continued incremental relenting of freedoms, right?
100%. And that's the key word, is kind of like these incremental movements, right? It doesn't have, and that's what a lot of people think, right? Back in they've done studies on this, right? Back in the 30s and in the 30s and 40s in Germany, right? A lot of people are thinking like, how did they get from point A to point Z, right? How did they kind of go along with that? Increments, right? Small little things, slowly but surely over time, and then it starts to become normalized in people's head. I always bring up when they passed the original Bank Secrecy Act, that was passed in 1970. And coincidentally, 1971, right? Richard Nixon removed. There's no coincidences, ladies and gentlemen. But so they passed the Bank Secrecy Act, and the reporting number was $10,000. In 1970, that's the equivalent of $80,000 worth of purchasing power today. Everyone said, "Oh, like 80. That's not unreasonable." Fast forward with the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which just printed more money. They're spinning in our faces at this point, to be honest. They tried to put into that bill that every $600 transaction had to be reported, right? So how did we go from 80,000 to 600,000 to $600? Well, Andy just mentioned it. Increments, right? Small little moves and then people start to normalize it in their head and they start to think this is normal. But this is not normal. And I'm really glad that Eric pulled out his Constitution. The Fourth Amendment says no unreasonable searches and seizures. Do you think that every $600 transaction being surveilled by the federal government that can't even pass accounting in terms of sending the billions and billions of dollars that they send overseas, right? They themselves can't even live up to their own rules, but then they force the populace to live up to those rules, right? So yes, it's getting out of control, but the protests have been tried. The picket signs have been tried. All these things have been tried. But the most powerful thing that, again, it moves the balance of power, where the return on violence, it's not increment, like it's not as effective having monopoly on violence, is millions upon individuals all over the world taking self-custody of their wealth, therefore becoming sovereign individuals, right? That's how we really change things. And I think people have to wake up to that reality. Anyways, guys, let's move on to the news. Let's talk about Samurai. A lot to uncover. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. so you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, everybody, right here. See this? This is a Passport hardware wallet, Bitcoin hardware wallet, completely open source, easy to use, especially if you pair it with the Envoy app. This is freedom. This is sovereignty. You put your Bitcoin into cold storage, and that's how you protest. That is the protest, right? So get yourself a hardware wallet, properly secure your seed words, scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the Foundation Devices website. Anyways, let's start today's episode from reading this passage once again from the Sovereign Individual, because once again, it predicted exactly what's happening. Why is this happening? Well, we're transitioning from the industrial age, and then the era of the nation state that really started in the Napoleonic era, and we're transitioning to the information age, right? And it's going to completely change how human society is organized and human society is structured. But most importantly, it's going to change the relationship between individuals and the state. But we don't know how long this is going to take. And if history is a teacher, when you have these types of transitions, right, things get shaken up, literally. So this passage in this book was written in 1997, and you guys let me know if it sounds familiar. Lacking their accustomed scope to tax and inflate, governments, even in traditionally civil countries, will turn nasty. Businesses that offer services that facilitate the realization of autonomy by individuals will be subject to infiltration, sabotage, and disruption. Arbitrary forfeiture of property, already commonplace in the United States, where it occurs 5,000 times a week, will become even more pervasive. Governments will violate human rights, censor the free flow of information, sabotage useful technologies, and worse. Sovereign Individual, 1997. All right, now let's get to today's story, but we have to go back in time. And the reason we have to go back in time is because, dude, did we effing call this when the Tornado Cash thing happened? I had the 1,000-yard stare, and Opti was looking at me like an absolute crazy person. And I was like, dude, I don't think you understand what this means, right? So Tornado Cash set the precedent. Tornado Cash founders charged with money laundering and sanctions violations, right? This is the original allegation, the original thing that was alleged by the U.S. government. By the way, Coin Center fought this. Everyone fought this, and they lost all the cases. And what do you think happens when that precedent is set? Well, guess what? They're going to take another incremental step. And that's exactly what happened with Samurai. So this is the original allegation. It says, as alleged in the indictment, the defendants operated a $1 billion scheme designed to help other criminals launder and conceal funds using cryptocurrency, including by laundering hundreds of millions of dollars on behalf of a state-sponsored North Korean cyber crime group sanctioned by the U.S. government. These charges should serve as yet another warning to those who think they could turn to cryptocurrency to conceal their crimes and hide their identities, including cryptocurrency mixers. It does not matter how sophisticated your scheme is or how many attempts you have made to anonymize yourself, the Justice Department will find you and hold you accountable for your crimes. Okay. Right? For your crimes, right? So let's forget, all the billions of dollars that are being sent overseas to fund wars. There's no accountability. No one audits that. Forget about that. Again, you are operating on a different class than the political elite. You play by a different set of rules. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to scare you by setting examples. Remember Julian Assange. Remember Ross Ulbricht. Remember the Tornado Cash developers. And now let's remember Samurai. And just to kind of give you an idea of how serious this is, if you go search Samurai Wallet and you click on the website, this is what pops up. This website has been seized. as long as I believe there was 10,000 Bitcoin that Samurai had, and that was seized as well. So this is real. Here's the actual press release coming out of the DOJ. Founders and CEO of cryptocurrency mixing service arrested and charged with money laundering and unlicensed money transmitting offenses. This literally happened roughly a year after Tornado Cash. Why did they start with Tornado Cash and not Samurai? Because no one really knew what Tornado Cash was. No one was really using it. It wasn't really popular, but they had to set the precedent. Once the precedent was set, it normalized in people's minds, and they could incrementally, they can move another step. And that's exactly what happened. So anyways, but there is a silver lining here, and I'll get to it. But here's the original indictment, or the original press release. It says, Keon Rodriguez and William Hill are charged with operating Samurai Wallet, an unlicensed money transmitting business that executed over $2 billion in unlawful transactions and laundered over $100 million in criminal proceeds. Now, the beautiful part about Bitcoin is that it exposes incentives, and it kind of has this like weird forcing function where like even if you attack it, like it kind of makes you reveal a little bit about yourself, right? And what they just admitted is that Bitcoin is money, which is like, there's a silver lining there. They admitted that Bitcoin is money. They just literally said, $2 billion of unlawful transactions and laundered over $100 million in criminal proceeds. They didn't launder this they didn't, quote unquote, to use their words, this wasn't laundered in dollars. This was laundered in Bitcoin. So they just admitted, the DOJ just admitted that Bitcoin is money. But remember, you hear them on the other side. They say, no, Bitcoin is not money. It can't be money. It can only be money if it's backed by the state. Well, in this press release, they just admitted that Bitcoin is money. Anyways, so there is a silver lining. Now let's get to some of the details of it. Here's the no BS Bitcoin post. Samurai Wallet founders arrested and charged with money laundering, unlicensed money transmitting offenses. Federal prosecutors charged both the founders of Samurai Wallet with conspiracy to commit money laundering on Wednesday. Samurai's web servers and domain has been seized, and a seizure warrant for Samurai's mobile application was served on the Google Play Store. Per DOJ, the application will no longer be available to be downloaded from the Google Play Store in the United States. According to a press release, the duo developed, marketed, and operated the mixer, which facilitated more than $100 million in money laundering transactions from illegal dark web markets. Quote, as alleged, the two founders are responsible for developing, marketing, and operating Samurai, a cryptocurrency mixing service that executed over $2 billion in unlawful transactions and served as a haven for criminals to ensure in large-scale money laundering. Rodriguez and Hill allegedly knowingly facilitated the laundering of over $100 million of criminal proceeds from the Silk Road, Hydra Market, and a host of other computer hacking and fraud campaigns. Together with our law enforcement partners, we will continue to relentlessly pursue and dismantle criminal organizations that use cryptocurrency to hide illicit conduct. Keep in mind, 95% of the Bitcoin that was mixed using Samurai, it was just people seeking privacy. 5% was allegedly tied to quote unquote criminal activity. Interesting how that works. By the way, very similar numbers in the Tornado Cash case. So what happens? Privacy is now criminalized. Privacy is now villainized, even though the vast majority of people using this were not associated with a crime. You see how that works? It's interesting. Anyways, prosecutors also indicted Rodriguez and Hill, garnered about $4.5 million in service fees from the CoinJoin services they provided. Special agent in charge Thomas Futurso said $2 billion in transactions with an unlicensed money transmitter means $2 billion flowed without any oversight from whoever to wherever. Samurai Wallet is now closed for business. The charge include a conspiracy to commit money laundering and conspiracy to run an unlicensed money transmitting business. These charges could lead to a maximum sentence of 20 years and 5 years, retrospectively. Here's Francis Pulio. He's the founder of Bull Bitcoin. Let's hope that Samurai servers are well encrypted or they manage to wipe them remotely, because otherwise the users are doxxed. Here is Nostr 888. WorldPro coordinator never touched XPubs. If you don't run your own node, then your wallet provider has your XPubs transaction history. Only 10 to 15% of users use Samurai's nodes. Here's Seth for privacy. He's done a great job covering this, by the way. Highly recommend checking out his Twitter. All Samurai websites down, GitLab down, coordinator down, can't even mix via Sparrow. A sad, sad day that has me shocked and in disbelief. But we won't stop fighting for our privacy. If you're using Samurai Wallet from F-Droid, ensure auto updates are off. Don't get any dodgy Fed updates. You can restore your Samurai Wallet in any BIP39 compatible wallet in order to access your Bitcoin using 12 words and a PAT plus passphrase if you're not running your own node. So yes, this caught a lot of people by surprise, but at the same time, if you've been paying attention to what the state has been doing and the weaponization of the DOJ against privacy, then this should not have come as a surprise to you. They set the precedent with Tornado Cash, and really what they're doing is they're following through. So I had a couple original thoughts yesterday. Said it won't end with Samurai. This is the separation of money and state. Did you think that they were going to go gently into that good night? This is just the beginning of the fight, Bitcoin or slavery. Then I came to the realization that it's not about money laundering. It's about setting an example, just like they did with Ross and Assange. If you're not part of the political elite, you cannot do what they do. If you do, they'll put you in a box, quite literally. Here is Jan Pritzker. Jan Pritzker is a co-founder of Swan. He had two things. Now, again, we'd like to present you with all the kind of takes on this. I disagree with the second part a little bit, but I think it's important to include all opinions from the Bitcoin community. So there's two things could be true at the same time. Privacy is not a crime. There's a war on privacy, and the proposed FinCEN rule that attempts to treat mixing as suspicious by default is creating reporting requirements on standard privacy practice, which even they themselves acknowledge has legitimate use. This is bad and is government overreach and should be fought. Samurai were doing a good job leading the charge in this fight. 2, is that a coincidence that they arrested the people that were leading the fight and leading the charge in the fight? I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. Number 2, the allegations against Samurai point to very specific things like tweets and investor materials that showed they welcomed and encouraged illicit actors to use their practice. If people haven't read the DOJ materials, they should. The PDF, not the press release. I heard people in spaces claim the government doesn't understand how the tech works. This is bullshit. Read the PDF where they describe exactly how it works. Whether the decentralized coordinator is actually money transmitting is probably a stretch. However, it doesn't seem a stretch that based on the evidence collected, they were encouraging users of darknet markets to use their service and marketing as such to investors and the public in tweets. As such, running a service that allegedly enabled money laundering, even non-custodially, is where the DOJ is going after here. The war on privacy must be won, but by making privacy the default. But we must also approach this with maturity, perhaps by building privacy tech that is decentralized rather than run by a VC-funded American company and not going out of its way to market services to criminals. Alex Gladstein responded and he said, honestly, the allegations are pretty thin in the indictment. There are tweets that may or may not have been sarcastic, and there are investors' materials that referenced restricted markets. Can't put someone in prison for that. The most damning stuff related to hacker proceeds being mixed, but judge would likely need to see evidence Samurai knew this was happening. Now, again, I think it's if the US government had the moral high ground to say, listen, they're laundering money and no one could do this, and everyone was playing by, the same set of rules, maybe you can make the argument that, okay, this was justified, right? But I'll get to why I don't believe that's the case. Here's Whitney Webb. Whitney Webb's done an incredible job covering a lot of government overreach and a lot of the things that have been happening. Her take on this is there's a war on financial privacy. It will not magically stop because you hold some BTC and number go up. Larry, markets like totalitarian governments think his cronies want to make Bitcoin part of the programmable surveillance digital money ecosystem. They are winning right now. Here's Edward Snowden's take. The Department of Justice has once again criminalized the developers of an app that restores financial privacy. The way to fix this, the way to fix this is to make money private by default. Privacy must never be exceptional, or they will make it criminal. I think that's a really good point. Here is Ryan Adams. He said 2 more privacy developers in the U.S. Arrested today, this time for building a Bitcoin privacy service. Where does it stop? It doesn't stop, by the way. Quote, the Samurai Wallet developers should have known you can't host a centralized operated mixer. Okay, well, the Tornado Cash developers deployed privacy as immutable code, nothing centralized. They also got arrested. Up to 25 years in private for writing code that helps people keep transactions private. The UN estimates banks facilitate nearly $2 trillion in money laundering each year, not through custodialess code, but as willing intermediaries. Dozens of major banks have been fined billions of dollars for money laundering over the past decade. How many bankers have you seen go to jail? They're making an example of Bitcoin and shitcoins because they don't want us to have private peer-to-peer transactions, not by passing laws in democratically elected chambers, not by issuing public guidelines. They come to your house and take you away. Who's safe from this regulatory terrorism? And who's next? Zcash is a privacy-preserving blockchain. Aztec is a private layer 2. How about them? How about their investors and users? And then it goes on to talk to DeFi and all that stuff. But this is a really good point that Adams is making, right? And let's actually kind of break down some of these numbers, right? Samurai founders are nuns compared to the bankers. Since 2000, regulators fined banks 7,400 times, totaling to fines of $380 billion for various offenses. Why do banks keep doing it? Because they see it as the cost of doing business. They get a slap on the wrist, pay the fine, and continue doing what? Laundering money. Either banking is criminal by definition or the rules are broken. Why aren't bank CEOs? Why did no banker go to jail for 2008? Why are we held to different fucking standards than they are? That's the question that people should be asking. And by the way, to put the cherry on top, the same day that this is happening, and I don't think that this is a coincidence, I think this is a message, Biden calls for a record high 44.6% capital gains tax, not to mention also a 25% unrealized gains tax as well. This is absolutely absurd. I don't think that this is a country run by the people for the people. I truly believe that this is a country that has held its people hostage, and it perceives itself to be a quote unquote democracy. But I think it's really the bureaucrats, the unelected administrative state that's running the country and holding everyone hostage and making an example of anyone that is not playing within the system. Why do bankers have a different set of rules? They were mentioning numbers like 2 billion. That's nothing. That's nothing compared to the money laundering that the banks do. And they just get a slap on the wrist for it. So why the different set of rules? This is utter bullshit. And you have to call it out for what it is. And our number one defense against this, and I would say it's defense and offense, is if people just opt out and take self-custody. Stop partaking in a system that treats you differently because you want to use a money that doesn't steal from you. Like, that shouldn't be a crime. Right? And again, how long until they say when you take self-custody and you're sending Bitcoin to whoever, anywhere around the world, which I have no idea how they're going to be able to enforce U.S. sanction policy on top of that. How long until they call you a money transmitter? How long until they tell you that you can only hold Bitcoin on a hosted exchange? How long until that happens? Like, clearly the writing is on the wall where this is going. And it's absolutely absurd. And I think it's enough time where Bitcoiners stop infighting and stop fighting themselves and stop trying to pass these bullshit purity tests and wake up to the fucking reality of what is actually going on here. This is the separation of money and state. Wake the fuck up. Anyways, Opti, what's your take? And then we'll pass it on to our guest.
Yeah, well, I think it's very interesting, first and foremost, is that they are using the exact same charges that they threw on the Tornado Cash guys as they're using for the Samurai guys. And it really goes to what we've been saying for a while. You know, we knew this was coming, but also they wouldn't be attacking Samurai, or rather privacy in general, if one, they weren't afraid of you guys transacting privately. And again, privacy does not mean secrecy. It's like you guys have curtains on your house, you wear clothes. Like, I don't know if I necessarily believe in the idea of like privacy is a human right, but it is a literal UN human right. I think it's Article 12, where you have the right to privacy. And so it just goes to show. And this kind of goes back to everything we've been saying for a while about them trying to censor freedom of speech as well. It's like they don't want you communicating. They don't want you to transact privately. Like, they want to know everything about you, especially in the digital gulags that we are heading into, the digital dystopia that we are finding ourselves in. They want to know everything about you because, you know, my reasons that we're going to stop criminal activities and all this stuff. So that's, I think, where this is happening. I think this is a huge overreach by the government because they're just terrified of Bitcoin winning, of you guys transacting. And, you know, I know they didn't overtly acknowledge Bitcoin as money, but how can you launder money through Bitcoin if Bitcoin isn't money, which is one of those like kind of funny gotchas through this. And, you know, like, again, just doubling down, like they wouldn't have shut down Samurai if it wasn't working. And I really think that this is going to Streisand affect better privacy tools. And, you know, I know there's been privacy wars for the last like 2 years on whether Wasabi's better or whether Samurai is better or whether you guys should learn right now to use join market, all that stuff. But I think this is going to further put like a fire under the developers' asses out there to ensure that we have privacy tools that cannot be shut down. And just to be completely clear, I did read the whole PDF. And it does seem like they kind of know how Samurai works, but there is a lot of inconsistencies in that article. And I'm no privacy expert. I'm no financial crimes expert. I'm just a Bitcoiner that read the PDF. But, you know, just to, again, to be completely clear here, like Samurai was completely non-custodial. So at no point did Samurai actually custody user funds or have control over user funds, and especially did not execute any transactions on behalf of the users. It's completely self-custodial wallet. And this is why we've been saying for a while that eventually this is going to lead to them trying to stop you from using just good Bitcoin practices and taking Bitcoin into custody. Like, this is where it's heading. And this case is entirely absurd as far as all the takes that I've been reading and looking into. I did a lot of, you know, back and forth people's tweets and articles and podcasts since this news dropped. And this should be loudly called absurd. Like, we should not be letting this go into that good night. We should not be quieting about this, because the precedent that this can set going forward for all self-custody tools is completely insane and not something that we can allow and just kind of take. Like, the implications of this basically go down the line that Bitcoin miners are going to be considered as money transmitters, that Lightning nodes are going to be considered as money transmitters, that you're going to need to KYC and AML. What's it? Self-hosted wallets. Like, this is where they're leading. This is why they started with Tornado Cash. This is why they finally are setting their sights on Samurai. And one interesting thing about this whole debacle is that Samurai led that one letter with like 12 other Bitcoin companies in regards to coming to the defense of Tornado Cash. And then a year later, they come after Samurai guys and the Samurai devs and the Samurai wallet itself. And, you know, I know my boys over at the Bugle are technically satire, and they've been trolling everyone about like comply harder. But it just goes to show, like, if you try to comply, if you try to work within their laws, they will turn the laws against you and lock you up in a box. Like, this is the game. It's rigged against you. And until more people wake up to the fact that you have the power out there as an individual, and that these institutions are corrupt, and that they're doing whatever they can to basically stop you from speaking freely, from transacting freely, like, nothing's ever going to change. And this is why it's very important for us to continue to have these conversations, because the implications will really, really hurt the whole Bitcoin movement in general. And shouts out to Whitney Webb. You know, I tweeted the other day, I watched the TFTC with Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin, and I just tweeted like dissident money over Wall Street bucks. Like, if you can't transact freely, if you comply with Bitcoin becoming just Wall Street money, like Bitcoin's not what we thought it was. And so this is a very important defining moment in Bitcoin. This is definitely the then they fight you stage. Like, it's here. Focus on the real enemy. Stop shooting each other in the kneecaps while the Great Leviathan is at the gate. Like, the real enemies have taken notice to Bitcoin, and whether they understand the technicalities of Bitcoin, whether they, grok Bitcoin completely, they understand the implications of the game being played. Again, it's all about power. It will always be about power, and the ultimate power comes from controlling the money. Hence why they're going to do whatever they can to hinder Bitcoin. And, one of my last notes, and I'll end my rant. By the way, guys, look into who the judge is on this Samurai case and the other cases he's been a part of. A little fishy there, but that's all I'll say because we're on YouTube. So on that note, let's go to Andy. Andy, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, you've both now addressed one of the biggest points I wanted to make. I mean, $100 million of the alleged laundered money is 5% of the total 2 billion. 5%. So we have to understand the tactic here, right? This is a clear ignorance of the majority, focusing on a small minority of bad activity or bad actors to force the state into an issue of basic privacy, right? And so the debate really, it isn't like whether or not illicit activity could be perpetrated on a platform like Samurai. Of course it could, but therein lies the hypocrisy of the government, right? I mean, how much money's been laundered through central banking? You just showed the numbers in that tweet, right? How much wire fraud has been committed by public officials? I mean, it's just, it's infuriating right at this point, right? And so, we just have to understand the tactic, understand what's trying to happen here, and not ignore the downstream implications of such a dangerous precedent being set. You addressed this as well, but all financial privacy is on the chopping block at this point. All non-KYC, all non-custodial products are in the crosshairs. That has to be recognized. We actually talked a little bit before going live around how maybe for some Bitcoin companies, it's an immediate existential threat. Again, let's say the non-custodial solutions, certainly other folks with CoinJoin products, right? But maybe it's actually all of us, right? Even though we are not operating as Bitcoin Talent, we're not operating a CoinJoin service. Like, this is increasingly an existential crisis for us. We are trying to build Bitcoin in our own way. We're trying to support the space in our own small way, right? But when the attacks are coming from above and are so large and are so daunting, like, we need to be doing more earlier on, right? It's just, we can't be surprised that we're at this situation now, right? But we need to do more than just get angry and furious about it, right?
100%.
There has to be some mobilization. There has to be some collective work done across the ecosystem, whether you're a product or a service or a crypto product or service, right? Like, let's put aside the beef, the BS for now, right? Like, which chain is better? We know which chain is better, but we know that they want all of us dead, right? So how can we come together to really push back on this and fight this battle, which ultimately is a battle for privacy, right?
100%. It's a battle for privacy, and you can't have freedom without privacy.
Wait, and can I jump in? Sorry, Nico and Eric and Andy. Like, guys, remember, Bitcoin is speech, guys. Like, if the politicians actually cared about the Constitution, we all know they don't. This is a free speech issue. Literally, these guys wrote code. Like, that's all they did is they wrote code, and now they're in jail for this. Like, this isn't just an attack on privacy. This is an attack on every single person's freedom, and they want to ensure that every single one of you are stuck in the digital dystopia. Like, this is where we are right now in the movie.
Yeah.
100%. Eric, hit it.
Yeah, for me, I'd like to take a second for everyone in the audience and the, just everyone listening right now. Let's take a second and just chill out for a second. Take a couple deep breaths. Everything's going to be okay, right? We have people on our team that are fighting this fight right now. And I believe in these freedom fighters, honestly. Nico, Opti, Andy, everyone else in my community right now that are behind Bitcoin and behind the bigger fight, which is human freedom, freedom of speech and all of that. So as long as I have my team on my side, man, I'm in this fight. So that's kind of where I want to leave it right now.
Bet. Guys, also, hold on. Sorry, Nico. I don't mean to cut you off again. But I dropped the Cypherpunk Manifesto in the chat and YouTube. Go read it again today. This was written, in the 90s. And it really is a good framing of what is going on right now. Remember why we do what we do. This is what it's about.
Yeah. This is the separation of money and state, ladies and gentlemen. Partake by taking self-custody. If enough of us do it, we win. And, these types of events are going to continue to happen as time progresses. So it should not come as a surprise to you. And I think it's important to remember even what Andy was saying in regards to coming together. We're much stronger this way. A lot of infighting, specifically in the Bitcoin community, the last 2 or 3 weeks, and then Pikachu face meme type of reaction, like, oh my god, it's like, yeah, dude, like you forget what's happening. Like, people forget what is happening right now, and when you forget what's happening, when you forget like the circumstance, you forget what you're up against. You're up against a leviathan, a machine, right? The biggest collective of people the world has ever seen. 11 million people employed. If you add the contractors, it goes up to 18 million, right? We're in a country of 350 million people, just to kind of give you an idea of how big this system is, how big this machine is. And this is a machine that, once again, exists because of the money printer, and Bitcoin is a fundamental threat to that. So expecting that it won't react is completely naive, right? But again, it's so simple, because all we got to do is just wake people up. We show people the truth. We show people the truth about Bitcoin. They take self-custody. That's it. You don't have to do anything else. It's not like, all the other things, like the separation of church and state, man, that was bloody. Like, holy cow. A lot of like that. You read about the French Revolution. Like, that was not pretty, man. And the Napoleonic Wars that followed that, millions upon millions of people died. Like, it was not a happy event, to say the least. This is a little bit different, right? This is information narrative trench warfare on the battlegrounds of the internet, right? All we got to do is wake up people. That's all we got to do. We just got to wake up people, bring them together. It's not left versus right. It's not conservative versus liberal. It's really the state and then you. Anyways, everybody. Go ahead.
I'm going to interject real quick. It's a call to arms, but it's a peaceful revolution right now. And what you can do is, the peaceful revolution is get Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin, whatever you can do, get Bitcoin in self-custody, put it in a wallet, and you have the keys to it. And from that, you determine your own destiny from there. So as long as you put Bitcoin in self-custody, you make the rules. You have the coin, you make the rules. And that's kind of where I'm at in life right now. So bring it on.
100%. 100%. All right,
Who owns the Bitcoin makes the rules.
Yeah, I think that's
true.
Kaiser said that.
It's so true. You can't tell me. I've been to bank twice in my life so far from major banks, and you can't tell me what to do anymore.
Absolutely. Now, you got to empower yourself, and you do that by taking self-custody. Everybody, I do want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors. Of course, I'm talking about the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. It's probably a pretty good idea to build up that Rolodex of fellow Bitcoiners. Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. You download it, you open up the app, and it's a very clever filtration system. So you'll only find fellow Bitcoiners that are on the app. Has this geographical thing where if you move to a new city, you're traveling, you don't know any Bitcoiners around the area, it will literally tell you what Bitcoiners are near you. So it's a great resource. Download the Orange Pill app, connect with fellow Bitcoiners. Great resource to create Bitcoin only events as well. And also the Simply Bitcoin group chat on the Orange Pill app is absolutely popping. You can join it by checking the link in the video description. It's one of the best ways to reach Opti and myself. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture to talk to Andy and Eric. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
Everybody, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KB Max. They are the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. What you could do is you could scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. It will take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, where you can check out their inventory and connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with them, access their vast network of domestic and international customers when you sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. This is where I personally buy my Bitcoin mining ASICs. I can't recommend them enough. Check out Kaboom Racks today. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Opti, it's all yours, my friend.
Yeah, let's go. All right, boys. So actually, before we pull this up, and I'll show the website, let's just start with, I don't know who wants to take this, if it's Andy, but what is Bitcoiner Talent Co. or bitcointalent.co? What are you guys working on? Why should the people care? What's the mission?
Yeah. So in short, Bitcoin Talent Co. is the first Bitcoin-focused recruiting platform, providing both products and services for companies in the Bitcoin landscape looking to hire. Real quickly, my background is in recruiting. So this is what I've done throughout my whole career, usually in a tech company setting, right? And so is all the experience, all that, expertise gained, and a decade and a half of working in tech, bringing that to Bitcoin, which is my obsession at this point, right? And so really seeking to provide a way for companies and candidates to connect, and increasingly so finding a way to bring more people into Bitcoin, right? So more people being interested in Bitcoin such that they eventually want to work in Bitcoin. That's a big kind of focus for the team at this point as well. Services wise, not reinventing the wheel. Again, providing retained search and embedded recruiting services for companies, right? But really drawing that line in the sand, even naming the company as such, really focused purely on supporting the Bitcoin landscape broadly. No crypto, no Web3, nothing like that. Last thing I'll add too is, pretty prescient with the news that we've been talking about all day, but Bitcoin increasingly is being mindful of privacy tech at large and open source landscape, right? And so we as a business, though obviously Bitcoin is the focus, these areas, these efforts are things that we want to support and help those projects, companies, et cetera, to grow as well.
Love it. Love it. Okay. I'll pull up the website, but we did get someone in the chat that asked, and I saw Eric in the private chat say, let's acknowledge this. Someone asked, how do I get a Bitcoin remote job? So I'll pull up the website and you can take it if you want, Eric.
Yeah, sure. This is something I'm very passionate about. I was working as a civil engineer for about 3 years after school, and I quit. I quit to come join the Bitcoin revolution. And since then, my life has paid off 10x. I'm a free man now. And starting out, I did a Bitcoin education company called Bitcoin EDU. You can go to my Substack and see that. I've written a bunch of posts about that, just general Bitcoin education. But from there, I worked for Bitcoin Magazine for about 1.5 years, 2 years. So I got to see the ins and the outs of the Bitcoin industry. And that's right around the time Andy reached out to me and he said, I have this crazy idea for a Bitcoin recruiting company. And I was very responsive to it. I was like, this sounds like a really, really good idea right now, because the Bitcoin industry, you have to realize in 2017, 2018, the idea of a Bitcoin company didn't exist. It was all crypto. And we had to kind of like draw a line in the sand. So Bitcoin Magazine, I'll give them credit. They were one of the first to draw that line in the sand and say, we are a Bitcoin company. We're only focusing on Bitcoin right now. So I learned a lot through there. I worked with some of the greats, Rizzo, Dylan LeClaire, Germano, and et cetera, David Bailey. And think what you want about them, but at least for me, I was able to get an insight into what is the Bitcoin industry like and who do you want to work with, right? Do you want to take on sponsors that are crypto? Do you want to take on sponsors that are more Bitcoin focused? And you have to kind of balance that in a way. And if you go too far on the crypto edge, then people turn against you. If you go too far on the Bitcoin edge, then you probably won't make enough money, at least at the time being. So I saw both ends of the spectrum. And now being in Bitcoin Talent Co., our whole goal really is to build this entire industry. And so let's think of the idea of a tech executive or someone below that, a software engineer within Google, right? They're interested in Bitcoin. They don't know how to get a job in Bitcoin. They don't know how to contribute to the Bitcoin space. but we're trying to provide that platform for them so we can be the conduit in a way to get them into the industry and they can do their thing. So whether that be join a company, start their own business, whatever it may be, we're here to help. And after that, give it 5-10 years, these people will make the industry. So our goal, I think, overall is really to bring the best talent into the Bitcoin industry. And that's where our minds are set on right now.
Yo, I want to hijack this for a sec. So I see people in the chat like Arman and David Bailey and Opti with Samurai Docs and proud of it. Little David Bailey is great. Like, did you just forget what we just talked about for like 30 minutes? Like,
no,
we just
no.
Like, I'm not talking to you directly, Eric. I'm talking to the chat. Like literally, like
the infighting.
Did you forget what we just spoke about?
Right.
Like, did everyone just forget? Like, everyone just forgot, right? Everyone's like, oh, David, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, U.S. government, cool. Like, sweet. They're majestic. They're amazing. Let's focus on Bitcoin Magazine. Hell yeah. Let's fucking go. Like, guys, like, you're not thinking clearly. Like, you're not using your head. You don't understand what's happening. And you rather focus on the collective hive mind of like, oh my God, look, first of all, love the guys at Bitcoin Magazine. Love the guys over at Swan. Love the guys over at the Bitcoin companies. They're going to take different decisions as businesses, right? And let the free market determine who's going to win, right? But understand who the opponent is. And if you're going to infight with other fellow Bitcoiners that are building on Bitcoin, they might do it differently than you do. Then go start your own effing company and go and see how hard it is. I promise you, it's a lot more difficult than you think, right?
Yeah.
Now, all that being said, it doesn't like I get it. Criticism is good. Criticism is fine. You know, like again, someone else in the thing. BTC Mag is a shitcoin company and worth fighting too. Okay, cool. You can do that. You're gonna fight a private corporation, a private company, right? How are you gonna fight them? You know how you fight in the free market? You create your own company, right? And then you become a competitor, right? That's how you do it.
And until then, I mean, you're basically an anon, a nobody. So show up, build a company, make some presence, and then when the time's right, maybe you'll take over them. And I would be happy to support you when that time comes.
I 100% agree.
Not even start a company, man. I think like, you know, obviously we're focused on bringing more people in and all that, but it's like, just make the decisions you want to make. Buy from the exchange you want to buy from, you know, read the media source you want to read from, right? Like whatever, man, like do the thing you want to do. But that point is exactly right. This is a very binary, like at this point, especially, right? Are you for or against privacy? Are you for or against Bitcoin, right? I don't care what your vision of Bitcoin is at this point, right? Maybe I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of saying like, oh, that's not real Bitcoin or ordinals or NFT, whatever, right? Like, I'm guilty of it, but I think recognizing today moving forward, like, are you for or against Bitcoin? We can, once we're on the other side of that hill, man, once we're finally in the promised land, we can decide, or we can continue the bickering, right? But like, let's all come together to fight the ultimate boss here, right?
100%.
I
right?
agree.
Like once we get over the hill, right? You know, we can go back to the purity tests, right? But if you guys are in the chat, like just bitching about, you know, a private company's own business decisions, right? And by the way, there's fellow Bitcoin content creators that choose to, align with certain people. They choose to partner up with certain companies. That's a business decision. If you think you could do it better, start your own company. And I promise you, it's significantly harder than what you think it's going to be, right? So like compete on the free market if you think that there's an opportunity because another company you think is going in the wrong direction. Compete on the free market, but going and trying to eat your own while we're literally getting attacked by the state, and the state is literally locking us in a box because some dudes like decided to write code, and you're like, oh my God, they don't pass my moral purity test. Like, holy cow, oh, my moral virtue, it's melting. How bad is this? Like, dude, like wake the F up, man. Like there's a clear and present danger and you're focused on the other side. You're looking at the other side and being like, oh my God, there's a giant fucking ape that wants to tear your metaphorical head off and you're not paying attention to him. Like, dude, you guys are naive. Like literally wake up to what is happening. I'm sorry, man.
I think that transitions to what Bitcoin Talent Go is all about, honestly. And we are supporting Bitcoin companies. I mean, no matter your background, as long as you're in this fight with us and you see Bitcoin as kind of that North Star, that freedom technology, then we're on your side. So I'd like to clear the air for a second and say I am on everyone who supports Bitcoin and freedom technology. I'm on your side.
100%. Wait, there's a comment. Why does everyone have to start a competing company? We can also just attack our adversaries as well. So you're attacking a private business, right? That sounds like some commie ass type of shit, in my opinion, bro. like,
yeah,
they probably never started a business.
Attack your adversary. Like, okay, if it's your adversary, then don't buy their products. Don't use their stuff. Like you could totally do that as a consumer and say, I choose not to participate in using their products and using their stuff. Right. That's what you can do as a consumer in a capitalistic society. If you really dislike them, then start your own enterprise and then compete on the free and open market. But if you're just trying to compete, if you're just trying to pull down a private corporation because of their business decisions, like that doesn't sound very capitalistic to me, my friend. That sounds some very communistic to me, in my opinion. Anyways.
All right. I'd like to reframe the conversation and talk about Bitcoin Talent Go. All right. So
thank you.
If someone out there is looking to get into a job at a Bitcoin company, what's the process? How does this work?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest thing we can do is direct people to our job board, right? So if you pull up the website again, you'll see the job board link at the in the header there. Continuing to add jobs more and more. So companies have been posting over the past week even. So that's as best as possible, have the most up-to-date list of, these are active clients, right? That are currently working with us. We have connections with those businesses. You can apply exactly right there. You can also sign up for the platform so that you can put your information in there. So we can always understand which opportunities to match you with. You can sign up for job alerts. All that's right there front and center. That's just step one, though. And that's the easiest way. Beyond that, some of the things that people start to ask is, well, what kinds of jobs are available, or how can I best position myself? And one point that I always make, I really want to kind of drive this message home, is that increasingly the opportunities in Bitcoin are more and more diverse, right? Maybe a cycle, certainly 2 cycles ago, you had to be a developer, you had to be an engineer, right? Whereas now that's not the case. Even looking at our own track record over the past, let's say 13, 14 months of operations, half the roles that we've filled on behalf of our clients have been non-technical roles, right? So these are marketers, these are sales folks, legal, compliance, everything, right? 50% still being technical roles. Of course, it's going to be an important part of the industry, but there should be a home throughout this next cycle for anyone who wants to get into this space. All levels of experience, all disciplines, right? And so that's the optimism I want to bring to this conversation, right? There's been a lot of negativity, a lot of rightful pessimism, right? But the optimism is that if you want to get into Bitcoin, there's never been a better time to do so than now, right?
Love it. And speaking of purity tests, do you guys screen people and make sure that they are Bitcoiners and Bitcoin only?
It's twofold, right? So on the candidate side, of course, our clients are going to be asking questions of, is this a Bitcoiner or not a Bitcoiner? And actually, I'll say that there's no one answer there. We have a spectrum of clients who are like, I want people who have only worked at Bitcoin companies who run nodes, right? I mean, that limits the talent pool quite greatly, right? But there are companies who really take that stance, and if that's what they want, we'll help to connect them with mission aligned folks in that regard. But then there's folks who are like, and I think this should be the case. You don't have to have worked in Bitcoin; you just need to be a Bitcoiner, right? And there are many more people than you'd expect on these islands, so to speak, in tech, in traditional finance, whatever, that are just dying to get into Bitcoin. And so those are the folks we're trying to save, so to speak. Pull off those islands and bring them on the boat, right? But then on the flip side, it's companies, and absolutely, right? We have to filter on that regard. So to this day, you'd be surprised, maybe not surprised, to hear how many former friends and colleagues of mine reach out saying, "Hey, I see you're doing crypto recruiting. Like, can you help me with this or that?" So first of all, no, I'm not doing crypto recruiting. It's Bitcoin only, and here's why we're focusing only on Bitcoin. But companies even conflate the two, which has been interesting to see. So you come to us wanting to hire a Solidity developer, no matter what you're willing to pay us, we say, thanks, but no thanks. That's just not our area of expertise, right? It's just not what we focus on. And so I think it's actually maybe arguably more important on the company side to have that filter and make sure that the businesses we're supporting and the people that we're trying to bring into Bitcoin are only getting placed at Bitcoin companies, right? Or Bitcoin focused companies, if you will.
Love it. And one more question on that note. Is there like I don't know, like, is there like a metric like, oh, you have to have been a Bitcoiner for this long? Or is it just like, is there like a test or like, okay, do you understand Bitcoin?
If you listen to this live stream right now, you somehow, I don't know how you navigated here, not being a Bitcoiner yet, but you just clicked on it. You heard some people yelling, you're like, what's that? And through the course of the last hour, you were like, fuck yeah, like that's bullshit. Like privacy should be saved. Like if you became a Bitcoiner today and with that conviction decided you want to work in Bitcoin, we'll help you, right? Like there's no length of time, there's no purity test involved in this, right? I try to be a bit more pragmatic, right? And again, this brings us all back to like the culture wars, the purity test, the infighting. Like my stance has always been pretty pragmatic. I'm mindful of the fact that I had my own missteps on my journey to becoming Bitcoin only, right? I shitcoined, I lost money, I made money, whatever. I'm not ashamed to talk about the journey I went through, the pain I had to feel to ultimately come out the other side Bitcoin only. And so when I look at, folks who maybe are still shitcoining, maybe I see them as me, but they just haven't got there yet. So instead of like, kicking them down and like, kind of shunning them, how do I help them to get to the other side more quickly, right?
100%. And I think everyone, what you just described is paying the price of tuition. And, I've been doing this for quite a long time, and 99% of Bitcoiners that I've ever met started shitcoining, and then by wrecking themselves in the process is that they eventually became Bitcoiners on the other side. But it's really cool what you guys do. I think
hold on, Nico, on that point. I think the one tried and true way to become a Bitcoin maxi is by getting wrecked on shitcoins. I think this is the tried way.
You only learn by fucking touching.
I'll tell you guys a quick story. Very quick story. I was at Penn State University. I was about a junior in college, and they had a blockchain club. So that's kind of was my first foray into Bitcoin. They were showing ETH hard. There's a couple Asian kids that I had no idea what they were saying technically wise, but I saw the number go up technology when it comes to shitcoins, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go invest a bunch of this. And I personally bought Bitcoin off of Binance and then traded some of that for a couple different coins, and I got completely wrecked. And it really hurt me because I couldn't go buy beer to go to the bar for the next couple, probably 2 months at least. I was completely wrecked. And for me at the time, I mean, you're talking a couple $100, but as a college student, that means a lot of money. And that really taught me, at least, there is Signal, which is Bitcoin, and there's the shitcoins, which is, it's gambling money. So that's kind of my attitude towards all of this.
Love it. Okay. We are kind of getting close to the end of the show, and in the hopes of making the show palatable for people. How about the last message that you guys want to leave with the audience? We'll start with Andy, and then we'll move to Eric. It could be about Bitcoin Talent Co. It could be about everything going on. It could be about Bitcoin. Whatever the last message, the last 2 sats you want to give to the audience.
Yeah. I think it has to be broader than just our corner of the industry and what we're trying to do. I mean, of course, if you're looking for a job, like you actually want to work in Bitcoin, come to bitcointalent.co, sign up for the platform, message me, message Eric, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever you want to do, right? We're there to answer questions. But I think a more broad statement is, if you've gotten to the point where you've decided that, yes, this is enough, right? We got to stand for something, got to stand for privacy, got to stand for our freedoms that, feel like we are losing incrementally and increasingly so over time. Then find your own way to contribute. It doesn't have to be starting a company. It doesn't have to be working for a Bitcoin company, right? Just find your own way to contribute, whether it's hodling and sitting at home and joining that economy, whether it's contributing to open source projects, whether it's sending funds to guys like Dennis Porter, doing great work. I mean, I think his world's about to get pretty busy now too, fighting increasing battles, right? So there's all different ways that we can all contribute. Just do something, and just get off the sidelines, get in the arena, so to speak.
Love it. Couldn't agree more with that last message. All right, Eric, jump in. What's your last message for the audience?
Yeah, I think it comes, I tie it back to Bitcoin. It's the idea of proof of work. So whatever you do in life, make sure you're proving your work, and whatever value you're providing is actually providing value. And I'll leave you with this. Bitcoin is love, and we're all in the community together. So let's stop infighting and start working together.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely, man. Whoa, what an incredible show, guys. I know it went a little bit long. If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. Go check out bitcointalent.co to see what Andy and Eric are working on. Again, if you're a Bitcoin company trying to hire fellow Bitcoiners, is a great resource. And thank you guys so much for joining us on the show today. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, Nihilus Fields. And we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Thank you.
This episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.